Hello everyone, this is section 2.1. We're going to talk about a few different ways to represent our data visually. We're going to have lots of different graphs and ways to represent data. We're not going to go through every single one, but let's get a taste of a few of them here, starting with the stem and leaf graph, or sometimes called the stem plot. We're going to have a stem and a leaf. The leaf is usually the final significant digit. For example, if you have the number 23, we have 2 in the tens place, 3 in the ones place. So 2 is the stem, 3 is the leaf. If you have the number 432, you've got 43 tens, so 43 is the stem, and the leaf would be two ones. Often that's how it's going to be, but sometimes you could actually have like decimals in there, so 9.3 here. Here, 9 is the stem, so like the ones place or the whole number part would be the stem, and the leaf would be the tens place. We're going to look at this example here where we have a bunch of, what are these, spring pre-calculus class scores for the first exam, and here they are. So we're going to represent them as stem and leaf plots. If we take a look at all the different values here, or all the different stems we have 30s, 40s, 50s, all the way up to 100s. We can see our stems here, 3, 4, 6, 7, and so on, right? All of it's filled out. Notice a couple things like, I don't know, let's just look at the 80s. Here in the 80s, first of all, we have 80, which is a stem of 8 and a leaf of 0. So we have to put a 0 there to represent the fact that we have 80 there. If we didn't put anything there, then we wouldn't have anything. So we have to put a 0 there as a placeholder to show that we have 0 ones. Also notice we have 88 three times, so we have 3 8s in a row, right? So each of this is going to be 8 0, that's 80, 8 3, 83, and then 88, 88, 88. Let's do the 9s together. The 9s, the 90s, of course, we have 90, so that's a 0 for the leaf. We've got 92, so that's a 2 for a leaf. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 94, so we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have 96, so we're going to put a 6 there. That's what the stem and leaf plot looks like for the 90s. The last one here is 100. So remember here our stem is representing the tens place and our leaf is representing the ones place. We have 10 tens, so down here we're going to have a 10. And then we have 0 ones, so we're going to have a 0 here, extending this little table. That's it. That's a stem and leaf plot. It's a quick way to just kind of summarize all of your data and wrap it up in a little chart. Let's move on and take a look at a line graph. A line graph is very straightforward. We're just going to plot our points, and then we're going to connect each successive point with a straight line. Here we have an example of 40 parents asked how many times per week their teenager was reminded to do their chores. We have stuff like 1, 2. That means the teenager was reminded once. 5 people said they only had to remind their teenager once, right? But you can see here that the most common one looks like it was 3 times. 3 times a week they had to remind the teenager to do chores, and 14 people or 14 parents responded that. If you plot these points like 0, 2, here's the point 0, 2, and then we have 1, 5, and then we have 2, 8, and we have 3, 14, right? So you would just plot those points, and then you would connect them with a straight line. Let's fill in our missing points here. It looks like 4 times a week. How many parents had to remind their kids 4 times? Between 6 and 8 would be 7. So it looks like 7. 5 times a week. It looks like only 4 families had to remind 5 times a week. So there we go. Filled out the rest of the table. But like I said, a line graph is pretty straightforward. Bar graphs also pretty straightforward and very common. We can represent our data, whether it's quantitative or qualitative, as a bar graph. Later we'll talk about histograms, which are a special type of bar graph that we'll only use quantitative data for. But here we have some data based on the percentage of US-based TikTok users by age. So we have age groups and we have the proportion of the TikTok users. Let's fill in a couple things here from 10 to 19. You can see that's our first bar here, and it looks like it goes up between 30 and 35. Let's call that, 32.5%. Down here, we go from 30 to 39. This should probably be 40 to 49, right? This one right here goes up to almost 15%, where they have here 13.9. Sounds good. So let's do 40 to 49. And whenever you go to make a graph like this, let's just make sure that we label our axes and give it a title, right? What do these represent? These 10 to 19, 20 to 29. What do those numbers represent? Those are age groups. This 0, 5, 10%, 15%. This is the proportion or percent of TikTok users. So we should be able to look at a graph and understand what the X and Y axis are representing. Pretty straightforward types of graphs. Like I said, a couple we didn't go over, but you should be aware of. Dot plots. This is just where you basically put your values on the x-axis, and you put a dot on top of the value, and you kind of stack the dots, and it's just sort of like having a bar, except you have a bunch of dots that build up to like the frequencies or however many you have. I'm sure you've seen a pie chart before. I'm not going to talk about that. Pareto charts is basically a bar graph where the bars are sorted from like largest to smallest or smallest to largest. That's a Pareto chart. All right, there we go. I think that's it for 2.1. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll catch you next time.